I'm Caroline Williams. I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension in Oneida County. I am their Community and Regional Development Specialist, and I've been in the position for about 4 years. I'm a graduate of Cornell's Landscape Architecture program. I'm working on a project with Paula Horgan, which is a little bit of an interesting process, and she was one of my professors when I was here. This position is now it isn't relatively new, but it was new when I started at Extension. Cornell Cooperative Extension in Oneida County did not really have a strong community development component prior to me being hired. It was a position that was created through the Board of Legislators as a direct line item. It has now been kind of rolled into their appropriation. And it covers a number of topics, and my job has kind of expanded since I've been there. But originally I was hired to provide technical assistance to rural municipalities, help them connect to resources, provide guidance and expertise and connections back to campus regarding issues that they were facing in municipal government. Anything from farmland protection planning, land use planning, water resources, energy, all of those kinds of systems approaches that we all recognize that a lot of municipal officials in rural governments are part-time, sometimes not even that. They all have other jobs, they have limited resources, and in a lot of cases do not have the budget allocation to hire consultants to do full studies and plans. So originally that was where I came into the extension system, and my first experiences with CaRDI. I worked on a rural community development consortium, which helps provide training to rural municipalities within the central New York area based on specific needs. So as timely topical issues come up, we discuss how to get that information out to those municipalities to have them have the resources and knowledge to help address some of those issues. Also coming in to facilitate workshops and programs within those municipalities. Since then, my role has changed quite a bit. I've worked on a number of projects with CaRDI that have a number of different engagement components. So I worked on a project for USDA, Stronger Economies Together, which was a specific USDA curriculum that was delivered by Cooperative Extension educators and staff to specific geographic areas. So that was not as kind of outside of my realm a little bit. You know, you're taking a curriculum that you didn't develop and you're delivering it. So it took a little bit of practice to figure out exactly how you were going to deliver something that wasn't in your own tone or didn't necessarily use the same engagement techniques or practices that you personally used. So that expanded my ability to kind of engage with certain communities in specific ways, and it had a very specific outcome. You had to put together this plan, they walk you through the modules, and at the end you had this product. Part of what wasn't really considered, I think, during that process is, what do you do after the plan is developed? So here you have your lovely plan, and now what do you do? So those were the, where we had an opportunity to kind of come in and say, okay, we've identified these action items, how do we now engage the community to carry those things forward? How do we find funding for those things? Who are the champions in your community that find this so important that they're going to want to carry it forward? So that was one of the projects, one of my early projects working with CaRDI, and Heidi was actually the contact that I worked with on that. The project I've worked on most recently has been the Rust to Green initiative. And this is a project, a sustainability project in the city of Utica. It has, I think, some outreach to Syracuse and Binghamton, or at least that is the hope and objective. And the project really is looking at how do you engage the community in sustainability measures, in projects. It's kind of a grassroots opportunity to have people engage and kind of take ownership of their public process. The city of Utica is kind of notorious for their administrations rolling over, and you know, you get a one-term mayor and a one-term mayor and a one-term mayor, and every time a new mayor comes in, the objectives change. So how do you shift that power power structure back to the community to say, we're taking possession of these projects, these are the things we want to see carried over, and giving them the ability to carry those projects and move them forward. We've been working closely with Paula Horrigan, a professor in the landscape architecture department, and Rod has been doing a lot of coordinating with certain projects that come out of this community engagement work. So as you're looking up there, we've done a number of projects, but it really is having the community provide input and direction for certain funding streams to be allocated to. So as Paula's working kind of on the academic side of things and going through what a community engagement process is and having her students work on specific projects, tied to different areas in the city. We've done urban design plans for Bag Square. We worked on the One World Garden project is actually the project that's in the back. We worked on USDA grant to form a food policy council to address hunger and food desert needs. She's currently working on a project in Oneida Square that's tied to an art district. She's doing those kinds of things on the faculty side and on the academic side of providing that training to her students. And on the local side, through the extension end, we're the ones who are identifying stakeholders, making sure that there are people who are there who are ready to engage and to receive the information and the projects that they're identifying at the academic level. The other thing that the structure has changed a little bit more recently is that we were noticing that Paula would come in with a project. They would have 25 students come in, they would work on this project, and graduation would hit, and it would just float off into the ethos. And so we're working on a current project that's looking at developing an urban studio model. So having staffing within that works not for but directly with the municipality to help make sure that those projects get tied to funding streams, that they have the support of the municipal government, that they have the support from the community, and finding ways for someone to be the person who connects all of those dots. So as much as CaRDI kind of connects the dots on campus, we're looking at the urban studio as kind of connecting the dots within the community, the connections back to Cornell, and the connections to the municipality. So a lot of cases for us, we're looking at where is a funding stream that could help support that. Are there people in the community that would be willing to volunteer for certain things, and pulling those pieces together. So it's a pretty complex process. It is, I think, well within cooperative extension's expertise, but it's being delivered in, I think, a very different way than the traditional educator model, coming in, doing workshops, those types of things. We really, get kind of into the nitty-gritty of what the community wants. We do a lot of hands-on input. Our community, Utica, does have a large refugee population, 8 languages, 43 dialects. You better figure out a way to get their input that might not depend on language. That's a much more visual process. So some of the slides that you see up here deal with that. It's, put a sticker on the spot that you'd like to go with your family, which is an easier concept in some cases than fill out this survey where you don't understand the language and the nuance is probably going to be lost. So it means a lot of time. It means going in hours that local government normally doesn't, work in Saturday mornings and late nights, and going where they are versus having them come to you. Sometimes in a municipality, we're looking at an urban and economic development office, and they're like, well, we're open from 8 to 5. They can come pick the permit up, and you're thinking to yourself, do they even know what to do with the permit? Do they even know they need a permit? So looking at all of those issues where we can kind of provide guidance to the community to say, here are the things that you probably should have considered or should be considering as you're working on this project, and has anyone thought about those things? And it's not necessarily us doing all of the work in that sense, but just the guidance to get them to realize that there are things that they need to be doing that they may not be aware of. And I appreciate everyone at CaRDI, because I come in, one of the other things I was looking at, Robin's questions were the connections and benefits. Community development's a pretty tight field. And within extension, there are not a lot of development specialists throughout the extension system. And so the connections to the land-grant universities and other faculty, other professional organizations that may have that information that we don't necessarily have, or that would complement information that we can get from Cornell has been incredibly useful for me. The pad site, I'm looking, Robin, I've referenced the hard copy, but I use the online version much more frequently to get some very specific data. We're going through a community needs assessment right now with HUD, so that has been an ongoing process, and we get a lot of usual suspects at meetings, and we have a lot of population. The area that target area we're looking at is 29,000 people with a 44% poverty rate. So when you're starting to look at those things and you're looking around the room and it's a lot of CEOs from agencies and heads of organizations, and you're like, you're not the people who are receiving these services, and this money is being spent without a lot of input, then we go back and try to fill in those community engagement components to make sure that there's an equal representation of needs and desires by the community. Other than that, a lot of research, a lot of resources. We've worked on a number of projects over the years, and it's always been a learning experience. It's always been incredibly nice for me to have that opportunity for professional growth, and my connections on campus, I think, allow me to do the work that I do and engage more fully.